One of the gaps that I think we have in this, I would say this seminar, but probably more broadly across campus, is that we don't get enough of a voice from the private sector. And sometimes we forget how much of a powerful actor the private sector is in development. So when I met our speaker last year, when they visited campus, I knew this is exactly the kind of voice that we need to be able to bring to our campus and share their perspectives. I'm so delighted that they agreed to join us, and I'm going to briefly introduce. We're delighted to have Dr. Matias Nardi, who is the US country manager for DeepAgro, a company that's applying artificial intelligence in agriculture. Dr. Nardi brings a compelling blend of scientific training and private sector leadership, working on AI-driven tools that help farmers optimize input use, improve crop performance, and reduce environmental impact. All these things that we want to see in the world and being done by the private sector. Dr. Nardi earned Bachelor of Science in Agronomist Engineering from the University of Buenos Aires.
Yes.
Followed by a master's in agriculture and applied economics and a PhD in policy studies from Clemson University. In today's talk, Dr. Nardi will explore how artificial intelligence is shaping agricultural systems globally with a focus on scaling innovations, especially here in the US. Please give me a warm round of applause. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Professor, for this opportunity. Maria, Anna, for your support, for having the chance to talk with you guys. Again, my name is Matias, originally from Argentina. I've been in the US 23 years. I was 2 decades ago sitting where you're sitting, doing my master's, then my PhD. With that, goal in mind, to change the world, to have a positive impact, a purpose to help farming. My family in Argentina, we are timber farmers, but all of our friends and family are into farming, so you always want to have a positive impact in all you do. So I'm very pleased to be here, and hopefully you get our experience. So today the idea is to present a case, like Professor Mubaya was saying, how a startup that originates in a developing country like Argentina can disrupt agriculture, bringing new technologies to market. That's a huge challenge. So I always like to think about words. Words convey a very specific meaning. We are from different cultures. I like to think about science, technology, developing a product, understanding who is the customer, who is the user of that product, what value we bring to that customer, to that user, what business do we operate, what's our business, what geographies are we working on. We can be in Argentina, but it's not the same the Pampas as the Chaco region. We can be in Brazil, but it's not the same the southeastern of Brazil than the Cerrados in the center west. We could be in the US, and we can be in the southeast, in the Delta, the Midwest of the Northeast. So when we talk about global development, geography, territory, it's very, very important. And not just one country. You can be in different parts of Africa with multiple ethnicities and countries within one geography. And you have to always keep that in mind. And then, of course, the big word, it's adoption. We want to scale up companies. We want to scale up businesses. How do we get that technology, that product to customers very rapidly to disrupt agriculture? Economics, it's always there, trade-offs. Are you gonna put more money into product, into development? What country, what geography are you gonna go first? And then the idea of a company, you can go from a science, technology, product, customer, but at the end of the day, the unit of analysis are companies. Sales, supply chain, product development, engineering, talent management. It's very, very hard, not just to build a product, but also to build a company. And that's what you do when you're a startup. So keep that in mind. And of course, private sector, you can either get grants from the government. If you're from a developing country, that's impossible. There is no money for the private sector. So investors, who are you gonna be working with, who are your investors, who are your partners, who are going to be your mentors along the way. So our story starts with the story of our CEO and one of our co-founders, Juan Manuel Barufaldi. He's from a family farm in the Pampas in central Argentina. His dad is a small family farmer and a custom applicator. And he grew up listening in the 90s to all the challenges his dad had with applying chemicals. You know, farmers have a terrific challenge. We are asking them to produce, being sustainable, and they have to be profitable. If they are not profitable, they're not going to be in business. And we are asking them to keep carbon in the soil, to build organic matter, to keep nutrients in the soil, to prevent soil erosion, either water erosion, which brings a lot of environmental problems. But if you control weeds with tillage, and you're telling them not to do it anymore, then you have to resort to chemicals. So you either use physical force or you have to use chemistry. But using chemistry has another environmental problems. When you keep using the same chemicals over and over, what happens? We get weed resistance. And also, why are you going to apply chemicals on all of the field when only 20 or 30% of the field has weeds? So Juan Manuel, listening to the problems of his family, he was a computer engineer student in Argentina, in Rosario. He said, why don't we use artificial intelligence to detect weeds and apply only where it's needed? So took his bicycle, power a pole, a GoPro camera, started recording the fields where his dad was working and collecting images. And he said, I'm going to use a detection criteria in which we focus on weeds first, morphology of the weed, the context, what's surrounding those weeds. Is it going to be soil, other weeds, crop? And then the color of the weed. You can have weeds that they are dead, there is no chlorophyll, they're not taking resources, so why should you apply on weeds they're already dead? For you that you're not into AI is just models developed by us, by humans, that follow the same logic that everybody else. If this looks like a weed, then if it is a weed, we're going to apply and control that weed. So you get images, you train those images, you have to label them, you have to annotate them, you have to put data layers on those images. And then you start testing. And if you use generative AI, you only need 5% of the images you collect to train those new models. You run it in the lab, and then you have a model. You take that model, and then you take it to the field, and we do what's called field trials. After doing field trials, once we understand that model is successful, we deploy it on the sprayers. And then we keep working until when one customer says, hey, I have this weed in this geography that your model is not controlling. Then we have to take images of those weeds in those geographies, retrain the models, and start the cycle again. So this is a continuous process. Why? Because we're going to new geographies, new ways of doing crop management, and weeds evolve. Remember, if you are in agronomy, we are in a system that is all the time evolving. And I'm going to show those videos. I'm going to show you two very quick videos so you see what we are doing. The first one shows this detection in real time. The other one. That one, yeah. Thank you. So that's soybeans on no-till agriculture, and that's in Argentina, 90% of the crops are grown on no-till. The other one. So that's...
This one?
Yeah. Sorry, guys. So that's soybeans, 15-inch row spacing. As the sprayer moves into the field, you can see the crop residue, and the system is detecting weeds the size of a dime at 9 miles an hour. So that's the power of AI. Using computer vision and machine learning, you can detect weeds in real time and apply. So you can leave that one or the other one is the other way. So that's the detection part of what we do. And then comes the application part. So the camera, it's uptaking images. Those images are gonna bring that to an NVIDIA Jetson processor. And then the system, the algorithm is gonna decide in real time, in milliseconds, that's a weed, that's not. And then it's gonna send an electrical signal to a valve in a nozzle that's gonna open and shut also in milliseconds. So in the past, that machine would be spraying chemicals all the time, broadcast application. With our technology, it only applies where you need it. That's the beauty of it. Are we guys good? Was I clear? Everybody awake? Okay. So that's our solution. The name, we call it spray. And the beauty of it is that we can retrofit any sprayer, any brand, any model, any color. We are brand and color agnostic. We can work on any boom. So a sprayer has a big tank and then has a boom. The boom can be 30 to 40 meters, up to 120, 140 feet wide. And we put one of those devices every 2 meters, then commands 5 nozzles. As the machine moves forward, it's gonna detect weeds and spray only where it's needed. A big advantage that we have is that we build our system on top of the original system. So the grower can apply both on the original broadcast line and on independent spray line. So you're a grower in the Midwest. You want to apply an insecticide and fungicide late in the cycle, and you want to control post-emergence weeds. You can do a broadcast application with fungicides and insecticides on the original line, and you can do a spraying application simultaneously. So you don't have to go 2 times to the field. That's a big advantage. Let's see. I'm gonna need your help. So remember, in the past, these machines, the flow would be from the main tank to the nozzle, open all the time. That was the design. Fill your tank, go to the field, apply all the time. With our technology, you're gonna save 70 to 80%, and there are multiple changes that we do on the machine. Some are electrical, some are hydraulic. We have the recognition modules. We have a CAP module to command the recognition modules, and then a web application interface. So the grower, the operator can enter and very easily on his phone, his tablet, he can see the status of the machine. So this is what the farmer will see after an application. Look, I saved over 80%. All the green areas are the areas that I didn't need to spray chemicals. And there are 2 ways to do the reading. One, it's at nozzle per nozzle, and the other one, it's at the flow meter. So you have the tank, you have a pump, a flow meter that measures the flow going to the boom. In this case, we are showing just at the flow meter. So farmers adopt technology for a variety of reasons. Number 1, it has to be profit-driven. It has to have a positive ROI. So there are 73% savings on the usage of chemicals. That's the average that we have following the machines that we install. That's the biggest one, but there are other benefits. Big one, it's water usage. So when you use chemicals are only 2 to 3, maybe 5% of what goes into the tank mix. The rest, it's what? Water. You need water to dissolve the mix and spray the chemicals. Meeting with growers here in Seneca Falls, for instance, in upstate New York, they have to buy city water because the pH is too high calcium carbonate. If the pH is too high, then the chemicals are not going to work because they have to work at pH 7, 7.5. So when I visited them, they were buying massive tanks to bury them and collect rainwater. So that's another benefit. You don't have to pay for water. Another benefit is you don't have to ferry water or mix from your farm to the machine. Think about this, 73, 75%. So you're going to be only using 1 out of 4 tank mixes. So the logistics, the time that you save, the people, the labor that you save, it's huge. Another benefit, it's plastic waste. Big problem all over the world. You know, we take chemicals from the retailer to the farm in containers. Think about this, hundreds of millions of acres, hectares, the quantity of chemicals that we use, and what do we bring to the farm? Argentina, Brazil, many places, there are federal, national laws telling what farmers can do and cannot do with plastic waste. That's another benefit. Cornell University came up with the EIQ. It's a measure, the environmental impact coefficient of the chemicals that you put into the soil. So farmers now can use better chemicals with a lower impact and also less chemical overall to reduce the impact of chemicals in the soil. One of the largest growers here in New York State, in Batavia, he was telling us, a big problem that we have is that corn growers for dairy, they use atrazine, and that carry over into the soil for 18, 24 months. So if we want to rent land to grow beets, carrots, or any other crop that is not a grass like corn, then we cannot do it from corn growers because that phytotoxicity in the soil carry over for 18, 24 months. So think about that. We're putting chemicals in the soil that will have an impact a year, 2, or maybe 3 years into the future. Also, you know, GMO crops, they are resistant to chemical formulations, but it has a metabolic cost to work on those chemicals that you apply. So if you're applying less chemicals on the crops, you're going to see a 10 to 15% increase in yield because of lower phytotoxicity on the crops. Where we are today as a startup, over 90 units deployed. It's a big old, at least 2.8 million acres already applied in Argentina and Uruguay. We are pre-commercial in the US and Brazil. Customers, they really like this solution. It's not just about less chemicals in the field. It changes the way you control weeds. We can bring new chemical formulations. You can maybe do another post-emergence pass instead of a pre-emergent pass. Lower cost, yield benefit, lower toxicity effect, very simple to use. A big thing that farmers love is that they see that the AI gets better every year. So Northwest Argentina, we have some problems with too many husks, too bright. Now the system gets blind. So okay, we have to recalibrate the model. We have to take into account that problem. We do night application. We use LED lights. So again, what can the system see at night and how do we get it better? So farmers can see these gains. What are our core competitive advantages? We develop our models in no-till farming in Argentina, narrow, ultra-narrow rows. In South America, we plant 15, 18, 20 inches. US, Midwest 30-inch row spacing, Southeast 36-inch row spacing. So what the competition did in the US doesn't work in Argentina or Brazil, but what we did in Argentina and Brazil works up here. So our AI models are very robust. Real-time on the edge processing. So what does it mean? Down there, we don't have, connectivity. So every model has to work offline. You don't need to be connected to the internet for the model to do the recognition. So it's already pre-built into that system that you have. Night mode, again, it's not common in the US, but in South America, capital is very expensive. Labor is less costly than here. So machines usually run at night. but you have to develop models to work at night. So again, our idea, we envision you're a grower, you don't want to buy a new machine. We are going to upgrade your unit. We are going to build on top of what you have. Again, we are not a legacy company, if you want to call it that way. We're not an OEM. So we work with any brand, any model, any boom. Big advantage, we talk about development. When you're in multiple countries, 2 hemispheres, multiple geographies, you're about to plant here in the US, in the Southeast, in South Carolina, they are planting in 2 weeks. Up here, it's going to be maybe May. So Argentina, they're already harvesting corn, soybeans. So models that we trained and we validated in Argentina and Brazil, we're going to bring them here to the US when they're about to plant. And those models that we're going to test and develop in the US, we're going to go to Argentina and do the same. So that's a big benefit when you can operate in multiple geographies. So that's what we do on the field, on the farm. We smart spray. At the same time, we have Starlink. We collect images. That's what we do on the back end. And we have a data lake. We have millions of images collected on multiple geographies, multiple conditions, different row spacing, different crops. And we get that data, we label, we annotate, with data layers, and then we have a massive storage of data that allows us to retrain new models and bring more value to the grower, whether it's nutrition management, whether it's Amaranthus palmieri, pigweed, water management, or Johnson grass. So farmers will tell us, I have this problem this year with this. How can you guys help us? We have the devices, we develop a new model, we send it via Starlink back to the unit, and that's how we get better. Being from the Western Hemisphere, the new world, the crops that we manage, that we work on, fallow, of course, corn, beans, cotton, peanut, working on sugarcane as we speak, sunflower, and wheat. Grasses are very difficult to work on because they are planted very close and they till, they're tillering. So it's hard to detect weeds when we are working with grasses. And usually it's very hard because grasses have grasses that they look alike, red rice on rice, and wheat with barley and so forth. But we are doing very good work. So on the back end, we develop our own solution called Ostrich. It's a cloud platform on AWS, the data lake that I just mentioned, and then an IoT to retrieve the images from the data lake. So you can run a prompt, look for all the weeds in soybeans at 15-inch row spacing from R1 to R2 in this phenological state. You go to the data lake, and the data lake will retrieve you those images so you can develop a model. That is super powerful because we can now analyze, build a model, and predict what's going to happen in the field. We can work with data we collect from the sprayers, drones, and of course, all the field work that we do. So where we are now, we are moving from precision spraying to smart spraying. We're moving from what we call, big iron plus GPS guidance to data analytics and artificial intelligence. And, I'm 48, I came here 22 years ago when I was in college in the 90s in Argentina. That's when Roundup Ready, glyphosate-resistant soybeans came to the market. In Argentina, in 40 years, 99% of adoption. They had to rewrite every class, GPS. Things change and change very rapidly. So today it's only 90 machines. In 5 years, it's going to be hundreds of machines, maybe thousands. You cannot do this alone. You have to be always working with partners. We are part of the NVIDIA Inception program from day one. We are in their top 3% of startups for the work that we do. And then again, Starlink, unbelievable what you can do now with that connectivity that you didn't see 4 years ago in Argentina. And of course, the idea is to be good at what we do and work with other people that they are good at what they do. Our business model, AI as a service, today we are working with real-time selective spraying, as I mentioned, self-propelled sprayers. And what brings value to the grower right now? What's the number one pain point? It was weed resistance, cost of herbicides, and that's what we developed. There are other problems, other pain points for growers, nutrition, diseases, pest, prediction, diagnostics. There are many, many things that you can build value layers on top of that. We have done other proof of concepts as well, especially with Ostrich, our platform IoT solution, by which we input images from other companies. We work on the back end, and we give them back metrics or other information that they need. But of course, as a startup, you gotta make money. Money comes in funding from investors or revenue. DeepAgro, from day one, our objective was to help growers. Growers are at the center of everything that we do. If the grower is the center, then we say you can never miss. If you bring value to them, they're gonna do well. So we did bootstrapping. We went to market really quick with the idea to validate our product and the value. So how you do this? You go to the OEMs, the ones that build machines, and sell it to the growers brand new, or go to the aftermarket. Aftermarket, it's going to people that already have sprayers. So adoption, we think it's gonna be very rapid. We think it's gonna be over 30% by 2030. There are, between Argentina, Brazil, and the US, 100,000 sprayers, 85, 90,000 between Brazil and the US, biggest players. We're also working with drones, and that's also a thing that's gonna be very, very important as we move forward. As a startup, just to give you an idea, how many here are from the business side, from the MBA? 1, 2, 3. Okay, if you're not familiar with a startup, you have to give equity so you can get investment, you can get funding from investors. In 2021, I helped DeepAgro to find those investors. Okay, we're gonna raise this amount of money, give this amount of equity to bring an MVP, a minimum viable product to market. And we're gonna work with the early growers to validate that product. In 23, we raised $2 million, give equity. Okay, we have to scale Argentina. Last year, again, we raised funding, $2 million again, give equity for what? To scale in the US and to scale in Brazil. As of today, we raised close to $5 million funding, and we have $16 million of revenue. So 90 units, give or take $200,000 each. That's the revenue that we generated and the funding we collected to keep this story moving forward. We are 53 people. This is very important. 25% female, very young, 31 years in age. I was the oldest. No, the country manager in Brazil is the oldest, so you make fun of him. But 2 PhDs, and it's amazing. You guys are young, purpose-driven. You want to change the world. Keep this in mind. Who are you going to be partnering with? Who are you going to be working with? What's going to be your impact moving forward? The co-founders, brilliant people. They could be working in any company in the world. You name it. We got 2, one in Microsoft in Canada, the other one in Switzerland, running the YouTube platform. So Juan Manuel, our CEO, Marcos, Ivan, Juan Ignacios, Nacho, and Juani, electronic engineers, computer engineers, specialized on AI. Freshmen coming out of college, they have this dream, and we have been working really hard to make it happen. We got also a board of advisors. Jose Gove is a former student here, like you guys, classmate of Professor Mubaya here. So great people, all your life, you're gonna be mentoring someone and someone is gonna be mentoring you. Always try to be close to people that share that passion that you share. It's not easy, so don't hesitate to ask for help or to be of help. There's always gonna be someone that has a different expertise, that has, another part of the world, a different view that's going to help you grow. Development is not just, about countries, economies. It's also about people. It's also about companies. And, in your journey through life, you're going to be in different companies, in different sectors, different geographies. Always have that passion to connect and to help the people around you. And we have been very fortunate that our investors, our customers, our team members, they share that values. As a company, it's not easy, To a startup, money has to go to a safe place, US, Delaware. The investors, then, okay, Argentina, Uruguay, Brazil, US. Start, building the company. 2024, BioSTL in St. Louis said, okay, pitching competition, we won, we were awarded funds to do testing in Northwest Iowa. They love the product, they love the concept. They challenged us to come back in 25, install a full unit in Illinois, and then we installed another one in South Carolina, that is 34, that is 38, different crops. Keep building those models. South Carolina, peanuts, corn, cotton, fallow. In the north, in Illinois, corn, beans, and fallow. So field validation. Guys, if you want to bring a product to market, it has to be tested, it has to be perfect. The market doesn't forgive you, especially in a place like the US. Again, great partner, BioSTL. So we are ready to go commercial. We're pre-commercial in the US, selling our first units. Again, are you going to sell B2C directly to grower? Are you going to do a B2B with a partner? We're working with a dealership to be our first partner in the US. Again, you go to a new geography. Argentina is the largest exporter of shell peanuts in the world. We thought we know everything about peanuts. The US is going to be a piece of cake. Come to the US, sandy soils, nematodes, 36-inch row spacing, twin rows. They use Paraquat. Parazone, commercial name. It's a herbicide that's been forbidden in Argentina for years. Europe doesn't want to touch it. Whoa, we know nothing. Testing. Carpet weed. It doesn't exist in Argentina, very common here. So the model, we gotta get it better. US, to give you an idea, 40,000 sprayers. John Deere is the dominant player. New Holland, ACO. So keep that in mind. Agriculture, it's a place in which legacy companies have a strong hold, whether in inputs, machinery, seed, chemicals, or, on the trading side, Cargill, ADM, Bunge, you name it. So you want to disrupt a place that's dominated by incumbents that they are not accustomed to be disrupted. Just to give you an idea, the US is very particular. You have farmers or growers that apply chemicals, and they buy 60% of sprayers. And then you have what's called agronomy retailers or service providers that they custom apply to the growers. So usually small growers, they go to an agronomy retailer and they ask, or they purchase the chemicals with the application. Okay, and they have different sets of values of what's important to them. But those service providers, they buy a lot of machines. They buy 40% of sprayers every year. So when we come to a new market, we ask ourselves, who is going to drive the adoption speed and the segment development? Resources are very limited. We are a startup. We told you how much money we raised. Who are you going to knock on that door first? Is it going to be a grower? Is it going to be an agronomy retailer. The service provider, they put a lot of acres. They service a lot of growers. So for them, it's faster to repay this technology. Large growers as well. So to give you an idea, lots of numbers there. What's important for that customer? The number one variable that explains success in farming, it's customer support and making sure that uptime is always close to 100%. Are it changes? No, it's not the same in Brazil than in the US. And then always be close to the customer. So if you want to do a B2C, you want to go direct to the grower, you know the grower, he knows you, you are very aligned, but it's very hard to scale up. It's very hard to bring a lot of new spray units to the grower. So you have to work with partners, whether they are OEMs, manufacturers, whether they are dealers, independent dealers, service providers. So just to give you an idea, Nutrien in the US, one of the largest agronomy retailers in the US, has 1,000 sprayers in the market. So in the US, the value proposition is very clear. Cost savings, herbicide application chemical cost times 60%. That's really the minimum savings they will have. So the farmer can know, buy this from you, I'm going to save 60 to 70% of what I spend every year. Does it make sense or not? Other savings, we talk about water savings, less plastic waste, lower phytotoxicity on crops. Pricing, is it going to be CapEx or OpEx? I mean, I'm going to sell it to you for a price and you pay and then thank you, or I'm going to charge a price per year. Are we going to do a B2C direct to growers or a B2B with independent dealerships? The value proposition for service providers, agronomy retailers, has a lot of friction points. You know, they tell us, how do I prepare the tank mix before going to the grower, not knowing what the savings are going to be? So that's a problem. You know, you meet with the operation manager of a Nutrien, he tells, I don't like it. What if I put too much? I'm going to be having waste. If I put too little, farmer's not going to be happy. And then you talk with the money people and they say, hey, how do I invoice savings to growers? Do I do a flat charge per acre or do I rebate the savings after the application? Just keep in mind, you know, we talk about adoption of technology, we talk about development. Some people that you're going to work with, you want them to be your partners, they have the opposite incentives that you have. So I told you, 40% of sprayers are purchased by agronomy retailers. Usually 60% of chemicals in the US are applied by them. They say, if I use your technology, Matias, I'm going to sell 70% less chemicals. Thank you. Have a nice day back. You know, go back to South Carolina. So, you know, they sell $15 billion a year of crop protection. So there is a lot of issues. Another issue that we have in the US is that, you know, we put a new tank on that machine. That's a big tank, stainless steel, 3 or 4, corrosion resistance. It takes time to develop the engineering. If the manufacturer in Illinois doesn't have the blueprints, we need to take that tank from the grower, ship it to Illinois, to the blueprints, build a new tank, and ship it back. So the grower usually likes you, he likes the idea, but once you start messing up with his unit, I'm going to take your tank. Thank you. I'll see you in 6 weeks. You know, there is so much love to give. So things are, you know, difficult. But again, you need those innovators because they are the ones that share your values. Another issue that we see in the US, a lot of units, sprayers, are on a 3-year leasing program. So yeah, I love the idea. I see the value proposition. You put this on my unit. In 2 years, I have to give it back to the dealer because I'm going to get a new machine. So are you going to come back and take the tank with everything that you have? No, thank you. Another challenge is financing. In the US, different other parts of the world, if you attach you retrofit our solution into the machine, that becomes part of the machine. So they say, well, that unit already has financing on it. We cannot do it. The farmer has to pay back or finalize pay that debt on that sprayer before we can finance the spray. And then we are in a situation right now, high interest rates, high input costs. The farmers are hesitant to, spend money given their balance sheet situation. And just to finish, data integration, data governance is always, a friction point, not just in the US. And then, of course, the US, liability challenges, litigation is very common here. Dicamba is out of the market because of so much litigation among growers that, we have to be very careful. Just to wrap it up, DeepAgro, as a small startup from Argentina, have been able to bring a new solution to growers that works, that has value, that repays very quickly, that affects sustainability at heart, but also, keeping money on the pocket. AI, machine learning, computer vision, it's here to stay. You are young, I cannot imagine what you guys are gonna see in 20, 25 years. Smart spraying is just the beginning. We are working on nutrition models, on sugarcane, other things that are gonna be great. Scaling in new geographies, again, testing and trialing, understanding the user customer, the value proposition, collaborations and partnerships are key. So you can develop that successful go-to-market strategy and execution. Thank you so much for your time, for your attention. Again, Professor, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nardi. I'm sure we have some questions. We have about 10 minutes for Q&A and discussion. So if you can just raise your hand, and if you're online, you can type in your question. Make your question very brief. Yes. Is it on? Yeah.
Can you hear me?
No.
Right now? No. I can speak.
Yeah, you can speak loud.
Well, thank you so much for your talk. It's a very interesting topic and one that I think a lot of people at Cornell have been really curious about.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Thank you. One that a lot of people at Cornell have been very curious about, considering that part of our university's deal with the Trump administration to restore our federal funding involved allocating more funding to AI agriculture. And so this seems like a really interesting application. I wonder if you could tell us about any other work happening in the sector, any other types of implementation of AI technology into agriculture?
Yeah, we are working on, we have a technology roadmap down the road. Some are on nutrition, fertilizers, for instance, sugarcane, sugarcane you plant, and then for 4 years, we have the same plant, but usually you lose 10 to 20% of the stem per year, but you keep applying the same rate. So very rapidly, you can, with cameras and AI, you can say, don't apply, or you have no plants. You can save, 10, 30%, up to 30% of NPK just by not applying what you needed. On planters, the same story, depending on the distance that you plant, whether there are missing spots or double counting, you can see a 2 to 5% yield loss. So yeah, the applications are multiple. In our case, we are focused very slow. We are working on large language models as well. But March 30th, there is an AI in Ag conference in Raleigh, North Carolina. Spaces. Gonna be there, and you can see the scope and model built for ag. There's a company in Argentina in the pivot irrigation. They put cameras, and every time the pivot passes, it knows how much water to apply in the pivot, depending on the status of the crop. It's coming. You look at the money being deployed by investors, VC funds, companies, when you do the math, the market that we can attack, or the market that we can disrupt, it's close to $60 billion per year, just on the crops that I mentioned. So, and you mentioned, the Trump administration. Coming from Argentina, when we started, there was a government, and then it's another one. How to think beyond the politics. Foreign exchange, interest rates, whether the economy is open or closed. Again, if the customer is at the core of what you do, the rest is noise. It may take more time or less time for adoption. Take, more time for you to be successful, depending on how you define that. It's true that VC funds, they have a 10-year horizon that they have to return money to the investors. But VC funds, sometimes they are curious. Hey, when are you guys going to do the exit? What's your exit? Are you going to be acquired by a company? Are you going to go IPO? So yes, we have 10 years to do this, but that's why we never took money, grant money or government money. We don't even look for it because we come from a place that we know that the volatility in the politics is so high that we don't want to even bother with it. Good point.
More questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Zach. I'm a plant science major, so I thought this talk was really interesting because I feel like in the plant science department, we don't talk too much about how AI is being used in applications and things. I had a question about the application system and is this technology being paired with broadcast applications? So would you spray the field beforehand, like a pre-emergent spray, and then use this technology after you've planted the crops? And then on that too, I know the nature of the technology, it's very short sprays. It's from, maybe a meter high above the targeted weed. Does that then affect the concentration and the type of herbicide that you were using then to target the weed and actually have it be successful in, killing the weed?
Remember, lines, an intervention line, the original broadcast, and then we do the spray line, this smart spraying line. So when you go to the field, one half of the tank is going to have the pre-emergent chemicals going to the broadcast line. The other half of the tank will have the chemicals for the post-emergent technical spot spraying. So you apply two different chemicals on two different lines at the same time. Residual, go broadcast, and post-emergent, glyphosate, 2,4-D, dicamba, whatever it is, you do it spot spraying. So the farmer doesn't have to go twice to the field. And that's the beauty of what we do. That's why we split the tank. That's why we put a second pump, second flow meter, second line. So you save the time and the money to go twice to the field. And then to your second point, we use special nozzles and tips, use TJ technology from the US. We work with them a lot. It's called 4003. And we keep the same dosage, usually 15 to 20 gallons per acre. What you can do from the cab is decide what we call the tile size. It can be 1 foot by 1 foot, 1 by 2, or 1 by 3. So you decide how much time you want the nozzle open, depending on whether weeds are, clustered or not. And then we have another way to calibrate the model to be less clustered along the mean, the regression, or to be more open. So, some weeds, well, maybe we don't know the weed that well, so we're gonna, if it looks like a weed, it's gonna be a weed. So, give it more flexibility.
Thanks. And I invite you to join the speaker for lunch afterwards. Those were very more specific questions like that. One more question, please. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. It was very interesting. My question is about the general use of AI in agriculture. Do you think the AI efficiency, as you presented, so the water save, the CO2 emissions, do you think all these economics can counterbalance the AI emissions? So speaking about CO2 emissions and all this.
Good question. Yeah, in our case, we don't have a metric for what the AI emissions are. We are working to be a B company, to be B certified. we know on our end what the savings are on water, plastic, logistics. So we are working on estimating all that impact. We don't know yet the training of our models, the impact on the environment. We have our own servers. We also use AWS. But yeah, when you're saving, 70-75% of chemicals, water, the impact is big.
And on that note, Dr. Nardi, all these benefits are to humanity in general. I like where you structured the incentive structures that, agrochemical companies don't have an incentive to cut down on the usage, right? But I think governments, people, environment should have an incentive for this kind of technology. Is there a role here for policy, for government to incentivize this kind of technologies or to penalize usage of agrochemicals? I know that's a tough one, but
yeah, that's, again, Pareto principle, make somebody better off without making someone worse off. Usually when incentives are aligned, people could give their best. The big thing is that, chemical companies, in our view, are short-sighted. Chemistries, 90% are off patent. So, BASF, Bayer, big companies, they don't have a lot of power. They don't have patents to protect their chemistries. And they're not bringing new chemistries to market. So what we see is that, and we tell them, well, with this technology, you could bring new chemistries to market because they cost billions of dollars. They are, risk. But they're going to use only 20, maybe 15% of it. And you can charge a higher price for those chemicals. Farmers are really, really worried because they say they come out glyphosate, Bayer is going to spend $20 billion on litigation. What else do we have? 2,4-D and maybe one more, glufosinate. So what's the future? Yes, we are talking about lasers, electricity. There are other things that may come 5, 10, 20 years from now. But if in 2-3 years, the scope of chemistries is reduced drastically, then we have a serious problem. Going back to your question, the grower in South Carolina, they were exporting 1,000 containers of peanuts to China every year because of the tariff disputes. China said, no, we're not buying peanuts from America. They went to Europe 3 times. Europe said, you are using Parazone, Paraquat. It's banned. I'm not touching your peanuts. So it's not just about cost, profitability. It's also market access. So
thank you.
Governments are very slow. Incentives are diffuse. When, again, companies and business talk, change, we think, happens more rapidly. Hopefully, we all get aligned. You were saying, and we see this technology be rapidly adopted.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're up to our time. I would invite anybody who would want to meet the speaker, even if you didn't sign up for lunch, it's going to be available for you to follow up with more questions. But please, let's give a round of applause to our speaker. And thank you for the amazing work that you're doing. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Especially the Merry Christmas.